Welcome back, everyone. 皆さん、お帰りなさい。今日は、67日目です。It is day 67. Today is kind of a half day, right? So at 6 we're gonna get 42, but half of these, maybe like a few of them, I think all the radicals are gonna get unlocked. So we're gonna get the rest of our kanji, and some, I think maybe one or two of these are gonna turn over, largely because I kind of like split it in half when I was digressing the other day, so it flowed over to another day. So some of these are all 24s, so we won't get a hit of vocabulary at the same time, but I'm pretty sure almost all of these radicals are going to unlock the rest of our kanji characters. So second peak day, I was going to start like 2 or 3 hours earlier, but because of how WaniKani does their SRS spacing, we had to wait a little bit. These 58 actually came at 5 p.m. and we're 4 minutes from 6 p.m. So I do not believe these are the radicals. I think the radicals are in here. Either way, we're going to get them. So before we do, these are special cases, right? We're making special cases for predicates. So let's go and look on our predicates. First predicates are a very specific category that I feel is incredibly weak when it comes to, I guess, a kanji focused product like WaniKani, right? So let's look. There's umareru, right? Umareru was the one that triggered most of this. So umareru, to be born, right? And we're associating it with umare, which is birthplace. There's no ru is default, so there usually isn't anything attached to ru, but everything off of ru, like different variances or different endings, they may or may not have something. So we have umareru, and umare is our reference, and then we have ikiru. Ikiru, it's also ru, but iki, to live, iki life, right? Iki life. And umu. Umu is to give birth. So uni is the thing. I don't remember if there's a mu. Yeah, there's nothing for mu as well. Right. So this is always worth investing some time. And then we have hairu. Hairu is our other one, to grow, and it's ha ha ha, something laughing as it's growing. I do not believe there's anything for eru as well. Yes. To further my point, right? Why this is a little concerning for the future. So let's go with maybe length. So umu, ikiru, umu, ikiru, hairu, and umareru. Let's go to this one, right? Going to jo. So we have ageru, ageru, and agaru. Agaru, and noboru. So the noboru is to climb. It also means to ascend. Hello there, Proko. It's also ascend and to go up at the same time, which lines up with agaru, which is to go up, by the primary. But it also means to ascend and to elevate, to go, like, to rise, to raise. We'll see how much problem that is. And then ageru, they're specifically highlighting the geru for being intransitive, so they add the keyword something. So you're lifting something, you're elevating something, you're raising something, as opposed to rise. And we'll see how well that works out as we keep on reinforcing the clusters of predicates using the same character. All right, let's get into our review. Unlock our stuff. Is this tsunami? Do we use tsunami for this? Yeah, because spray is the other thing in Hanza Hero. Anga kata.
Kangae kata.
Kangae kata. What does radical name mean again? It's the components that make up the characters. And then the characters compose vocabulary. So, three tiers of decomposition. So, these are purple. Purple is vocabulary, and then red, pink is kanji. So this vocabulary word is composed of 2 kanji and 1 kana. This is a little bit of an exception, but there are 2 kanji characters in this vocabulary word, and each kanji is composed of radicals. So this one would have a coffin, and I don't know what they would do. Maybe like a slide and or modified bow. Honestly, oh, it's a prison. Slide with the prison, for example. So coffin, slide, prison. And here would be like a modified prison with a lid. Would be the radicals. Yeah.
Katachi.
Katachi. What did it go with here? Self? Make sure not to miss the rendaku. Kakigori.
Kakigori.
Is it return? Am I thinking about Hanza Hero here? Oh, this is time. Right, they're using time and Kai because of the whirlpool, or not the whirlpool, but the swirly thing, right? Or kayak. Is that square symbol a word? It can be a word. Yeah, it could be time. In this case, since it's pink, magenta, it is a character, so it can symbolize many different words. And it can be used in many different words. I don't know what could be used for, like, I think I added stuff to this, right? Yasumi. Sure, I added stuff to this. What time is it where you are? What time is it for me right now? It's 6 p.m. I'm a little concerned about this one. I'm gonna use like So rest could be incorrect, is what I'm trying to think of. If rest is acceptable. Break, holiday is also possibility too. I think all of these are fine by default. So you could use rest, holiday, break, vacation. Yes. Okay. That's fine. We won't have a problem with that. Ohayo. 土曜日で、でも、学校へ行く。Wait, did you have a break? Oh, wait, your break is over, isn't it, Churn? Wait, what I mean? Isn't your break over a while ago? Oh, you have like Sunday school? I mean, you have Saturday? You have to go to school on Saturday? Sorry, Saturday? You have weekend classes, Churn? Is that my PhD certificate? Yes, it is. My parents way back insisted on framing it, so there it is. I remember when I graduated, certificates are mailed. They're often not printed out by the time you graduate, and I remember like it was sent home, right? It was sent to this house, and I didn't realize that because I just went on about my business. But then since my parents got it, they decided to frame it. I think my also my college degree is somewhere as well. My college degree is, my bachelor's is somewhere in a box somewhere. I'm not sure if my parents framed that either. Did you not get your certificate at graduation? So, in the United States, it's, at least personally, anecdotally, it's fairly common to hold a placeholder of the certificate. So a symbolic placeholder during the ceremony. Rarely are they able to print and publish and distribute like on hand during the ceremony. So you ceremoniously or traditionally get a placeholder, maybe like some sort of thing that symbolizes this is where your certificate goes, or like the act of, because usually, in my opinion, it's more pragmatic to mail them to the people. So as opposed to jostling and juggling and storing all the certificates in advance. I don't think I've been to anything where the actual certificate was given. High school, bachelor's, and PhD. I don't think a single ceremony had the degree printed at the time. We held something in place. Sometimes they force you to go to school on Saturdays because in an independent Chinese school. Ah, I see. Is it different on a weekend? Churn? I don't know. I wouldn't have mind going to school on Saturdays if it was different. Or is it just like a same thing? When you get asked a question in chat, do you try and think of how to flesh out your answer to the most you can? I used to. Now I don't necessarily anymore. Largely because I've answered questions a lot. And what I mean by that is I don't actively have to try to think to flesh out the answer. I think it's a routine habit these days. It's fairly nice when one becomes very used to doing something. I think fleshing out answers and attempting to make edits, right, over time, and or attempting to reinvigorate the answer or reiterate or have different versions of a specific answer comes with a lot of intuition these days. there was a time when I actively sit and pause and think momentarily prior to answering a question. You could kind of say that's when you stop believing that being introverted has anything to do with effective communication. Personal anecdote, in my opinion. Mileage obviously may vary depending on the person. Do you try to think of an answer to a question they may be implicitly asking in their explicit question? Absolutely. In general, when I answer a question, I'm already implicitly taking into account where the question and answer may lead. So effectively, I tend to lead answers. Lead with my answers in order to bring in a lot of different topics that may be relevant to the person who's asking the question. So most of the time when I'm thinking of a question, like for yourself right now, you're answering a question, I'm thinking about what your motivations are and where you could possibly go with that line of questioning. So my answer is very dependent on whether I want to continue that line of thinking by offering an answer in a different tone that allows you to continue down that line, or I can maybe lead it to a different line. Generally speaking, I tend to choose to lead it towards a place in which I can provide more commentary or anecdotes. So in this case, this question is fairly familiar. So naturally, whatever comes to follow, I would already have some sort of explicit response to it. And having explicit response, you might be thinking, well, then wouldn't it appear a little bit robotic? Like you've answered this question 100 times. For me, if I have to answer a question 1,000 times, very similarly, it offers me the opportunity to iterate on that answer. So just because you find myself, like, you might observe that I'm answering the same question 50 times, I would try not to answer it the same way every 50 times. This is different from making up facts. We're talking about the delivery, the process of delivering that answer. You can still provide similar answers contextually, but affect the tone and the timbre and the process, speed, delivery, volume at any given time. And that flexibility is why I continue to answer the same question to the best of my ability, regardless of how many times I've answered that question. I actually believe that those who are very used to answering questions, especially streamers over time, they tend to intuit this process. Those who are very successful, you'll hear that, yes, you ask the same question. It's like, hey, what's your favorite game? Right? What's your favorite game? What's your favorite moment? Man, this game is so buggy. Wow, this is the worst game. So those responses, for those who invest every opportunity, over time, you'll notice that their answers and responses and reactions begin to develop into a variety of answers and questions and reactions that are still the same at its core, of variance over time. And that's an intuition that I think a vast majority of people, regardless if you're introverted or extroverted, are able to intuit over time with practice. That's why I believe that encouraging interpersonal communication is a bottom line. You don't have to be an analytical person like myself. Like, I would consider myself fairly above average when it comes to analyzing communication, like having a thought running right now as I'm having this conversation. However, I think humans are naturally social, provided they have the proper stimulation or opportunities. And yes, social anxiety be darned, right? Do you try to think of implicit? I do find that you start typing a follow-up question that you end up answering from your previous question. Yeah, that's Probably likely because I try to keep a conversation moving and feel like I'm on point. Like, if I don't consider the person who's asking the question and I'm answering something and trying to feel like we're in the same connection, right? The same type of thought pattern, it can be very detached. A person becomes less engaged, right? It feels like you're talking at the person. I've said this a couple times. The difference between someone who is an intellectual who's intuitively speaking with the person, you can kind of feel it out even if you're not an analytical person. Like, oh, I don't know anything about this, but I kind of just get this person. So the idea of behind conversationalism is, in a feeling kind of way, is that kind of feeling where, well, we come from very different places, we're strangers, but for some reason it feels like we're on the same page. And that's the difference between talking with a person and talking at a person, right? I'm sure the internet has normalized that it's acceptable to be talking at a person. Like, hey, did you know that raccoons are raccoons are X, Y, and Z? And then someone's like, I think giraffes are great. Like, okay, that's two people talking at each other, not with each other. Right? The person did not make a connection with the raccoon in order to bridge to giraffes. They decided wherever their train of thought is, that's where it starts. So when someone asks a question, it's a perfect leaping point. And then anything you ask and anything I say will be connected to all those points. We're not making leaps and bounds of logic, with one minor exception. No, it's a very minor in the terms of it's rare when people are having conversations together, but it's pretty common in a way to excuse oneself. So you could say things, which Procol you do pretty frequently, as well as Gecko and whatnot, excusing saying, well, I've lost my train of thought, but on a different note, on an unrelated note, right? Then you transition using transition phrases, which is cut out in most internet conversations. That's where, in my opinion, is a very pragmatic practice that one may make in order to bridge into not using abrupt talking at someone kind of mechanics, right? Transitional phrases are lost in English. They're gone, they're figuratively disappeared from online conversations, right? Let alone talking about metaphors, similes, analogies, comparing and contrasting, like ebb and flow between comparing and contrasting, sequencing, right? Sequencing. Most of that type of flow is very difficult. And I'm not saying it's easy as well. It's not very appropriate at the moment or applicable to texting, right? Texting is very disjointed. It's desynchronized. That doesn't mean you can't practice, right? It's available to practice if you want. I try to add like ellipses to abbreviate long sentences and whatnot, but yeah, there are pragmatic limitations to texting and whatnot. Let's see. Like, if you answer the same question on WaniKani, you may refine your answer or think about something related to the answer that you may not have considered before. Yes, I do. Largely, if I had to summarize about the whole refine my answer, I farm other people to refine my answer. The most impressive thing, in my opinion, impressive as in leaving an impression on someone, is to integrate someone's answer and question into your answers and questions in real time while presenting your answer and questions. So the more questions I ask, the more questions I answer, the more elaborate and inclusive or flexible even my answers can become and my questions can become. So the more I talk to people, which I don't talk to a lot of people, really. Like, I spend in day out streaming and doing this, I don't actually talk to that many people. So if for whatever reason you're trying to compare me with someone else or something like that, this amount of interaction is sufficient, in my opinion. Talking to one person maybe once a day is sufficient to collect and refine your answers. You collect, expand your answer, and then you refine it, right? And you can even compartmentalize it. So then when you have an answer, you can flexibly offer different refined answers that are relevant to the other person, even topically or in tone, and then continue a conversation from there. Over time, a lot of this becomes intuition for those who aren't keeping track, like writing in journals and stuff. For myself, it's a little bit of a mix of both. I actually write a lot of ideas in my head, on paper, on drawing, on canvases, in different ways so that I can encapsulate some of the memories, right? I don't have an eidetic memory, so I'm not going to remember all of our conversations or questions. However, there is a sort of emotional intelligence that are built from all of this. You can get someone to feel calm when nothing else makes them feel calm. And you can still feel calm while being excited if you're able to empathize with them or give them the appearance of empathy. That's not being disingenuous. It's being considerate with the whole pragmatic reality that you can't live someone else's life. So I think the whole rigid understanding of what is considered genuine and honest is oftentimes void of compassion. Like, oh, I'm just being honest. You suck, man. I'm just being honest. Like that's okay. I think that exemplifies a lot more of the talking at someone, but the internet. You can be prideful, selfish, focus on what you have to do without being a jerk to the next person. I don't think it's emotionally intelligent. You're right. It's a privilege, right? You have the liberty to do that. I don't typically aim for that, largely because the other person is offering me the enrichment I require. Or I'm seeking, I guess, not require. Require is a very strong word. I misspoke there. It's the enrichment I'm seeking. My answers and questions and ability to navigate like a moderate perspective on most extreme questions, like what's your favorite video game of all time, is due to the consequences of having to answer questions in the first place and ask back what other people, like, what is your favorite game of all time, and observe how those people answer those questions. And then I can mirror that, I can imitate that and make it my own. So at first is imitation in order to get a sense of empathy, right? How do I form metaphors and analogies to multiple different types of people? How do I sound like a bro if I need to sound like a bro, or like fit in order to ice break and then do something else, right? Flex around. In order to get people to be far more open-minded with each other, you first have to establish a common ground. Like if you're already in Antarctica while someone is talking from like Australia, it's not gonna happen. I find that trying to enforce or trying to connect someone, like you have 10 seconds, right? And if you use that 10 seconds to show that you're inflexible in conversation, then it doesn't matter if it's 30 seconds or 30 hours. If you refuse to bridge, then you're talking at each other most of the time. And I think video games do that very, very well. How people could spend hundreds and hundreds of hours next to each other together, or even playing together, and they continue to talk at each other with no semblance of being able to understand each other in any way. I think for me, I need a modest 24 hours across a month in order to really say, I know someone sufficiently to be someone who can say things that would interest them. And that's for me. So I don't know if my threshold is high relative to other people. I would say on average, probably higher than what I described is probably a lot of what other people describe as friends already. And for myself, whether you're a friend or not, I give you the benefit of doubt regardless, because I value human inputs and human interactions over anything that is mass produced, anything that's replicated. So in my opinion, regardless if we have different meanings of friendship, I like talking to people. That's probably, I think that doesn't mean it doesn't make me exhausted, right? I do get exhausted from talking to people. That's why I don't stream every day, like stream 24 hours or something like that. I think those who stream 24 hours probably spend the majority of their time not actually talking to people or having to form to conserve, right? To conserve. It's a pragmatic thing. I don't necessarily think it's bad or good. It does tell you about the priorities of a person. Also, what does WaniKani mean, if anything? It means a turtle gator. Alla turtle. Crabigator. Oh, sorry, not turtle. Sorry, crabigator. It's a crab and a alligator put together. So their mascot is a crabigator, or allacrabber, or allacrab. It's a alligator plus a crab. I think it's typically depicted with the body of a crab and the head of an alligator. So WaniKani. Okay. Do you think there's a difference in introverted versus extroverted people's natural inclination to be empathetic? That's a good question. That's a great one. I think it's negligible. Introversion, extroversion's natural inclination to be empathetic is negligible. How they go about creating that empathy or executing and applying that empathy might be different. So for example, if you placed an introverted person next to an introverted person, they will probably reach empathy. How they initiate that process is probably going to be substantially different from like an introverted person or self-perceived introvert versus a self-perceived extrovert, right? The actual pragmatic execution will probably be situational. However, when empathy, the act of empathy, right, the inclination for empathy, both introverted and extroverted people are still people. They have a natural inclination to want someone to empathize with them, right? That's like kind of saying, do introverted and extroverted people want significant others? Do they seek commonality? If you look at that perspective, introverted wants a sense of belonging, much like extroverted people want a sense of belonging, and that belonging is bridged by empathy, right? So in that very specific context, there is a negligible natural inclination to want to empathize with someone, right? Whether it's one person or 100 people, you want at least another person, right? When you're born, your parents are the source of empathy, hopefully, right? Hopefully your parents are a form of empathy. How you go about executing that, I would say probably much more noticeable between someone who perceives themselves as introverted and versus someone who perceives themselves as extroverted. However, I believe, there's no statistics or evidence for this, obviously, that I am aware of that is conclusive, but the human condition would dictate that humans have a natural inclination for empathy. They want to be with another person. They want to be social and connected with at least one other thing. Minimally, But sometimes more is nice with, and there's too much, right? And all the moderate things. But I think it's negligible, that natural inclination for empathy. I think your effort to make it seem like we're talking to each other rather than at each other is a big reason I like coming to the stream, even if your neutrality in most topics can put off a lot of people. That's the reality of the thing. I think neutrality does put off a lot of people. It makes it a bit overwhelming when people want clarity, right? If someone's coming in and asking a question that typically is like double barreled, for example, a double barrel question. Do you think Capcom is a good or bad publisher? That's a double barrel question. So oftentimes what will put this person off is that I would explain that it's neither. It could be on a spectrum and they'll be gone before I even provide the answer, or like a lean or anything. Largely because double barrel people, or those who have a tendency to form questions in ones and twos and zeros and ones and yes or no's and true and false, tend to want clarity. They're looking for clarity. A short answer, clarified, concise. And while I try to do that from time to time, it's not my goal of being here. I actually prefer that either those people leave after 10 minutes or they stay after 10 minutes. If they do stay after 10 minutes, even though they wanted clarity, then that is the selection factor. So I've consciously decided when I was streaming that the pre-selection factor for those who I would invest a lot of time is based probably on the very first one or two interactions, because my interactions would be very high. It would be a large gate. It's a welcoming gate. Like, if you stay, that's all I need to know. That is the threshold. And it selects out, I would say, it selects out 95% of people, if not more. I would even go as far as saying 97% of people is exhausting until you normalize it. And there are people around in my life who probably, I would argue, outcompetes me in terms of how semantically nuanced they can be. I think that reflects a lot about the people I keep close to me, right? Like, how do I do this in a metaphor? Imagine something unpredictably anxious is going to happen. Can you name a bunch of people that you think about and you name them like, yeah, we got this, as long as I have these people with me? Because with our resources combined as people, we will be able to solve whatever is to come. I think that's kind of how I feel about those who overcome my pre-selection process, which I've already made clear. If you're not here used to that and you find it exhausting, it's a natural way to mutually, and not in a like aggressive or offensive way, like, oh, you're not good enough for me, I'm not good enough for you, that kind of thing, or you're just wrong, I'm just right, that kind of thing. It's more like, let's define our requirements now. So my requirements are that in overtime, people who talk to me will no longer, or unlikely, or have already decided that when they ask questions and talk about things, the nature of talking about them is often not clear. It's long, it's rigorous, and it's the most fun part. Time flies. When I sit down with my best friend, who I don't talk to like very often. Actually, my best friends, we might talk like once or twice a year when we like wish people, like wish happy birthday or happy new year, Merry Christmas. That's probably the most. The moment we seed a topic, we would not have enough time we finish talking about it before we have to go to bed or go obligation. Our conversations do not end until we have to leave each other. It's like, you don't sit down and say, yeah, yep, that's it. If not, I will probably try my darndest to keep it going. Largely because those times are precious to me. If you're sitting down, you're going to talk. If you're going to spend some time, heck, we're going to talk about something. And you might be one of the considerations, like, so what do you guys talk about? Do you talk about science? I mean, one time we were staring at a picture and we looked at the colors and we talked about it for 8 hours. Right? So, no, you don't really need to be like, quote unquote, have smart conversations. Or it's kind of weird. Sometimes I do lose empathy here at some points when someone convinces me that, oh yeah, this might sound like a stupid question, or like this might sound stupid. It's like, well, let's talk about it. It's like, I mean, in my mind, it's like, it's probably not a stupid question because I'll probably talk about it at length. But then you have an onlooker. It's like, wow, that's stupid. Like, why would you spend 8 hours of your life talking about the color purple being perceived by different people as not purple? I'm like, well, clearly that person outside with reasonable doubt do not care about the two people who are talking. So naturally, they will come to that conclusion that it's not important. But meanwhile, when I'm talking to another person, whatever they think is stupid was stupid enough to be brought up. So it's obviously important to them. And I make it my business to make it not sound like I don't care about that thing. Largely because I dedicated most of my time to making sure that when I talk about something, it is important. Otherwise, I don't stream. I go into my corner on my, sit on my bed and read to myself. There are plenty of times where you can live in your own world and remind yourself of what's important to you. When you're streaming, I know my motivations to stream and share experiences. The key word here is sharing, right? Sharing involves exchange as well. So others, obviously, you can name as many as others, are there for affirmation. They're there to demonstrate how important they are to other people and get affirmation from other people. So that's a one-sided relationship. That's often a parasocial relationship, and that's perfectly reasonable, right? And obviously, anyone who doesn't talk to me, who knows me through a video or something, that's still constitutes as parasocial relationships, right? A metaphor to this could be, the question is a tree stump that can branch out in many conversational directions, but the answer could end up being an axe that chops the branch off before they can reach the height they could. That's an interesting metaphor. I got one additional to that. Let's go a little bit beyond that. So, I'm not great with botany, but the apical meristem of a tree or a plant is the point in which it grows, right? However, you could cut off and produce 2 apical meristems, and they would grow on its own. Or you could use the metaphor in which the tree grows and bears pollen or fruit. So you take that and you plant it, and now you have 2 trees. And those 2 trees can grow compartmentalized. So now you have the option of using tree 1 or tree 2. So from that one tree, you can build a forest. And that's what conversationalism is, in my opinion. Without empathy has its roots. So if you cannot make more foundations, if you can't plant new sources of empathy, then no matter how well developed your single tree is, you can't it would be very, very difficult for that tree to be anything else at its core. So taking the inspirations off the tree, like maybe someone gave you some enrichment, some nutrients, like from the sun, the water, you can take that fruit, right? The fruit, the pollen, the seed bearing, and you can plant another tree. And it's kind of like owning a forest. A conversationalist owns a forest as opposed to a very, very large singular tree. Now, a very large singular tree can interact with a lot of things, right? That is still possible. And in fact, you asked me a little bit back about being a political leader. A political leader is more like a gigantic tree, a singular gigantic tree that provides shade across all the things below it, right? It casts a shadow that is incredibly big, that will touch many people. A forest is messy. You can get lost in the forest. You can misinterpret one tree for another tree. This tree kind of looks like this tree. Why have two trees when you can consolidate them and become one big tree, right? That's kind of where like having a neutral stance versus a a very strong lean. You cultivate a single tree. All your efforts is onto a single tree, as opposed to looking at the forest, right? One big whale versus a school of fish, right? That's probably a very, I would say, a somewhat important addition to viewing the metaphor or conversational direction or conversation in general. Oh, there's Sub-Zero. Do you view fitting in as something that you want to do because of the risk of the consequence of not fitting in, or something that would be good to do? I default to fitting in before I diversify. Plant the tree first. Plant the seed first, and then diversify the tree. So, establishing rapport before seeing how far you can go. If I can't fit in, imposing or sharing any of my opinion would be far more riskier. You can go around preaching your ideas without ever establishing rapport. I think that is how 90 to like the vast majority of people go about sharing their opinions these days online. I would say over 60% conservatively. If there's 2 comments about sharing an opinion, for every 3, 2 of them will be leaping over fitting in. So this is a biased thing, right? So there are trade-offs and consequences of this, risks. I prefer to play with the rules being outside than trying to break the rules and rewrite the rules without any connection. So getting into the circle before suggesting things outside of the circle. So in that way, this metaphor is no longer a negative thing for me, which I'm about to share, is that I wear a lot of masks over my life. And those masks are like my collection. It's my forest. Instead of having a collection of trees, I have a collection of masks. And those masks get revealed and get added more and more, right? So I put on a mask that reflects, I try to put on a mask that reflects the best of the group that I'm trying to relate to, right? To establish empathy. And then I start decorating that mask. And one day that mask could look like all the other masks that I have. But the idea is I can't show someone the collection of my mask until they actually understand that I understand them. So Conversation starts there. I ask questions in that way. I think I don't. I have always thought about writing a book about this, but I think there are plenty of wonderful books out there about how to initiate conversation, right? Like, for me, I personally ask maybe a set of 5 to 10 questions in various ways, or maybe respond and react as well in order to get a great idea of where I can go to initially establish a connection. Have those masks ever lead you to have something similar to imposter syndrome? Every day. Every single day. That's one of the human conditions. Or without a doubt. Go around, and if you find a strong conversationalist, someone that maybe not even isn't into psychology, right? Isn't into psychology at all, but you find someone that's incredibly charismatic. Ask them specific questions to see if you can ascertain if they have an imposter syndrome. You're likely to see parallels with imposter syndrome. But they don't view it as necessarily a negative thing, but something to manage at the cost of being charismatic. So like I don't know, Thor, for example, Thor from Pirate Software. I'm sure he has already brought up imposter syndrome multiple times. Hank Green, John Green. I'm almost absolutely not 100%, but 95% confident that Hank and John juggles and copes with imposter syndrome probably on a daily basis. I think that is a natural human trade-off for having this type of mindset in life. I often think that if I'm acting in all these different ways, depending on your environment, what is the real way I act? You act by synthesizing all of them. When I was 20-ish, actually, it goes way back, but I wasn't cognizant of what the imposter syndrome is, or a multiple personality disorder. That can be also on the list. So I spent most of my life because of my multicultural background, a lot of times I spent wearing masks since I was able to conceptualize what it's like to be in an in-group and an out-group. I have always been on the out-group. And in order to be in the in-group, only parts of my identity are used to be part of that in-group. And during that time, there are pragmatic, literal barriers that you cannot overcome as a youth. And since then, with that coping and those strategies, when I reached my intellectual maturity, when I went off to college, right? And that flexibility, those pragmatic barriers were lifted to some extent. Income, the appearance of my face, right? The idea that I'm male, right? There are so many things that were potential physical barriers that you can't change per se. Since then though, those masks increased, right? However, with intellectual maturity and the ability to be creative, you can synthesize all the different masks into a single identity. And over time, when I was in my 20s, I thought I never felt whole. As in, anytime I'm not with myself, as in like when I'm in a different environment, I feel like I'm acting or doing something that doesn't reflect the whole thing. But the idea is, at some point, I realized that I can do all these things and still go home with myself, with my thoughts, and be able to synthesize most of these things. So it allows me to ascertain that I have this identity that's a mix of all these things, while at the same time have the flexibility to wear masks. Now, when is it that I get to not wear a mask? with other people. Your best friends. You have less friends. Oh, that's probably your next question. So, my best friends get to see they get to see my mask collection, right? And hear me out, they have their own mask collection of their own. And and when that happens, you find out that you wear the same masks. And no, they don't come from a multicultural background. They came from a background that encouraged them to be interested in different cultures. So those masks, people who have been collecting masks have found other people who are collecting masks. Now, there are pragmatic exchanges. People who wear masks have less opportunities and less chance of finding another person because the possibility of that happening is rare through to like it's not a double standard, it's different circumstances. So as a human person, you're able to rationalize that, right? I understand that there are probably fewer people like me. That's what it's like to be born a minority, right? However, you will disproportionately cherish those 1, 2, 3 people you meet versus, in exchange, a division of your resources to 10 or 20 friends. And inherently, when you grow older, sometimes even those individuals groom down because they wear more and more masks, more and more different experiences as you grow older. In fact, I actually think those who are already juggling a lot of roles and experiences, when they get older, you don't actually see them peak out. You don't see them decline due to the cognitive dissonance. You feel them sliding very comfortably into their old age, largely because by the time you get old, you've worn a lot of masks, tons of masks. And we're not talking about mask as a negative sense. We're talking about experiences. One day, as you expect that one day you learn Spanish, then that'd be interesting to learn Japanese, then Chinese. Are you wearing masks for those, or are you integrating them into identity, right? For me, I'm integrating them into identity. I don't wear different masks. I can choose not to. So when I learn Spanish, I'm kind of learning it like I'm learning Japanese, which I'm kind of learning it like learning Chinese. It's both. I guess the answer is you can do both. There are times where you don't have to wear masks, and there are times you have to wear masks. Not practicing one or the other, in my opinion, is idealism. It's an ideal situation. So how do the internet people present this? Some people believe content creation is not wearing masks. Some people believe content creation is wearing masks. I believe content creation is both. And having both means you don't resonate with the majority of the internet. Hyperpolarization of behavior, right? If you're not one and you're not the other, then you're neither. So you're going to end up disagreeing with the majority of people online. Yeah. It's kind of tough. In a way, not wearing masks and wearing masks is another mask. Who would have thought? I often think that if I'm acting right, it's real. Do you think anyone has no masks? I'm gonna say this in a very, very I'm not referring to a very specific person, but I am kind of using them as a model. Someone who has so much power, so much privilege, and whatever they say holds no consequences. Is probably someone very close to not having any masks. Someone who holds so much power, so much privilege, and all of their actions do not have consequences. And they are perfectly wonderful being alone in the world. That kind of sounds like sociopathy, doesn't it? So, let's just take sociopathy. What is the statistic likelihood of someone being born a sociopath? Right? And then that's how rare it is. And among those sociopaths, they were born into a life of privilege, power, influence, and they have no consequences for their actions while being sociopathic. I don't think that's the case. I think masks are wonderful. How you use them is where the skill comes in. Being a conversationalist and someone who's able to teach, nurture, help people is how you use the masks. A therapist doesn't necessarily have to consistently be honest with you. What I mean is like speaking their mind with you. There are appropriate places to do that and when, and you can open and time things. It's over a spectrum. Some days you might be wearing a certain mask and then months down the line you no longer need to wear it, right? Or the mask itself becomes something different. You can make a collage out of your masks. So growth, right? Growth in time. Do you think the way you act alone is when you have no mask, or is that just another mask? Do I think the way I act alone is when I have no mask? I see it as another thing. So as another mask. The way I act alone is the stories I share about when I'm alone, right? What's something that I share openly about when I'm alone? I have mania when I'm alone. I don't have anything to focus my thoughts. So if I'm not talking to someone, not solving a problem, that's why I loved my job. I was dependent on my job. The job gave me a purpose, something that I'm constantly focused on. So when I go home, my mania doesn't get out of control. It's focused on doing something. I don't have to say this too much. If John Green during his vlogs and stuff, during times of like anxiety and stuff, illustrates this pretty well. When you're really anxious and you have mania and your thought is spiraling and whatnot, it's great to have things to do, things to focus on. So for me, when I'm alone, I often talk about another thing that most people won't see, because if we're already talking about it, then I'm not manic. So right now, this conversation is making me less manic. So you will rarely ever see that side of me because we're having a conversation. Only someone who is like next to me or with me might be able to see me in an environment in which like, why am I pacing around and looking at my phone and looking at the same screen like 30 times a day, thinking things would change? That's mania, right? Like, there are things I cope with every day that I'm sure other people talk about in a very important way, but I think it's very different. Like, for example, when someone says, oh, I look at metrics all the time, it's like, oh yeah, you know, I'm streaming and I can't help but constantly look at that viewer number over and over again, like early days, you know, back during year one when people were talking about, oh, I wish I had more viewers and whatnot. And my thought is, my world gets like incredibly sidetracked based on numbers. So whenever I'm saying sometimes metrics, you might want to take a break from metrics, find some sentimentalization and other ways to promote value that isn't dependent on a metric that you probably don't have that much more control over than you think. I mean, those people who think they have control over metrics are ones who are wearing masks effectively, right? So when you're talking to someone who is not wearing a mask or not able to adapt to the situation, then the opposing I would have empathy for it, but also might want to offer some advice regarding that. People who have control over things are very adaptive, but when it comes to like being alone, you aren't practicing adaptation. You're well, you are in a sense. If you don't have control over yourself, then that's probably where to start. Sometimes people compartmentalize even with themselves, like, oh, right now I'm studying. Let's put on my thinking cap, which is a mask, right? You put on your thinking cap, it's time to learn. If I go to school, it's time to put on my school mask. These are the tasks, right? They're still part of you, right? For sure. But for me, there are probably a lot of things that most people don't know about me, and I use that time to share them, right? Am I always this articulate when it comes to things I don't know about? Absolutely not. I come online, I stream, I already have prepped many things. I've done this for over 6 years, so there's no shortage of ways to respond to these questions. Although I do have to admit, Procall, you happen to be asking questions that I've answered with myself most of the time. Most of the training or the practice that I've had are questions, the everyday questions that are a pragmatic knowledge that you may require online. For example, how do you deal with negative video comments? How do you deal with people who spam insulting racial slurs randomly because they want to? How do you deal with trolls? Isn't it very deflating when you're always streaming and there's no one that talks to you? Those are the more like classical responses that I actually learned over streaming. The questions you're asking are questions that I've been asking myself for like most of my life. So these are actually really at home things. And most of the time these are asked in private because the context of these questions typically involve people who are suffering with identity crisis and like career problems and coming of age people, especially those who are in their early 20s now, right? On the internet, trying to find direction and whatnot. And this is more for a private thing, largely because I'm not a professional, and also I wouldn't say these any type of like blanketed statement online, but often converse about it through anecdotes, right? Oh, I know this person who we have spoken about this, or this person, or otherwise 100% it's usually anecdotes for myself, right? Do you think as people go into old age they lose some masks? They refine the masks, so parts of the mask become bigger things. Older people begin to revisit their old masks and they repurpose them into new ones. So for example, as you grow older, you'll reminisce, right? Reminisce quite a lot because you have so much time. A lot of things trigger a lot of things. You can, pick up your mug and you can like sip the coffee and suddenly you're thinking about 14 or 15 different situations. And suddenly it becomes just the cup, right? It's not 14 cups before your cup, but it becomes one cup. So yes, they do lose some masks, but those masks aren't lost. They are consolidated, right? That's where the refinement process comes in. You've collected so much of your experience that it becomes your identity. And that's what I mean by at some point you'll feel the real you. Hopefully. Not everyone gets to this stage, in my opinion. Oftentimes, yes, imposter syndrome does happen. They take hold. Or even some self-inflicted multiple personality disorder, right? Like dysphoria happens a lot, especially like body dysphoria. This is not, we're going into like really serious and controversial and even nebulous topics, but it doesn't end. A lot of times, not all things come to a happy ending, right? Or a happy current thing. So without being able to be disciplined in coping or managing all of these things and consolidating, so expanding, consolidating, expanding, consolidating. Like one day you want to be an artist, right? And then 5 years down the line, it didn't work out. Now you want to be a musician, right? So is that mask that you put on for being an artist gone? Well, there are individuals who I feel that I empathize far more, is that the art become integrated with the music. So they were able to reconsolidate whatever they had as an artist to become a different type of artist that combines the two. So this is how I view language learning. I'm not studying Japanese, Chinese, and Spanish in different parts of my time. I'm studying Japanese, Chinese, and Spanish simultaneously. As in, at any one point, some things will remind me of Chinese, like they will be meshed together. Now, you can't necessarily do all of these things intuitively and naturally until you have developed their separate masks well enough in order to know what parts of each mask fits together. So if you don't have enough competence in Japanese yet, you often keep it separated, compartmentalized. So when you're learning Japanese, you're learning Japanese. When you're learning Chinese, you're learning Chinese. At some point, when they become part of you, part of your identity, then your Japanese and Chinese kind of just melds together. For better or for worse, right? Because when you take two masks and you bring them together, some bits and pieces will get confused for each other, right? I'm actually making an analogy to how neuronal, like how I believe currently with the current data, how I view neuronal connections are being made, right? You groom, you expand, you create new neuronal connections, but through to refinement and replacement, like practice, the neuronal connections are refined and groomed in order to make new neuronal connections, and they're reinforced. So some details are lost at the expense of consolidating more details. So that's there are a lot of parallelisms in biology and how memory works and whatnot currently that fits very elegantly with the metaphor that I'm using or we're using at the moment with masks. Would that apply to someone in the complete opposite situation? Remind me which part that was. I fell behind because I was lollygagging with my thoughts a little bit. I kind of got stuck in a logical loop somewhere like 10 minutes ago. Oh, someone having no mask. Would that apply to someone in complete situation? Someone has no mask. I think there are some. You said someone with loads of power may have a mask, may not have a mask. Oh, and then you're wondering if it would happen with someone who has too many masks, but also have all the power? Or you're talking about someone who has no mask, but none of the privilege or power or something? If someone that has no mask, okay, if they have no power, then they would, and this is going to be really, really sad, right? I think this is probably the most evident. Then you have a recipe for disparity and desperation. What do you think those people look like? I can't refer to these things because of TOS, but then you have violence. Right? Imagine someone who doesn't ever decide to be agreeable, and they have no form of power or influence or privilege. Humanity is arguably incredibly vitriol when one has nothing in even their cognitive demands. So you're talking about someone who has no feeling of empathy anymore, right? No feeling of empathy, no feeling of belonging, as well as no practical means of building any form of empathy or choice. Then you have desperation. And I think it goes without saying, people on the internet has no problems imagining what that looks like. I don't want to imagine what that looks like. I hope we don't ever have too many of those discussions when talking about people, right? That's like the pit of desperation. And humanity's desperation is the brink and really extreme circumstances. So hopefully that's never the case, where you have someone who is legitimately sociopathic and pinned against the wall with no outs. It's kind of a treatment of lesser evils kind of situation, and that's pretty tough to choose. Like a lesser of evils, where someone who's entirely unempathetic and have all the power versus someone who has no empathetic tendencies and zero power. So I would probably agree with you. It's possibly the same, possibly maybe even more desperate than that, because one is abuse, the other is desperation. You know the idiom when they say when you have a tiger that is backed up into a corner kind of deal, right? That's really scary. Or something that can, we're talking about someone who's unempathetic. So there is there's also like a sympathy. When we're talking about extremes, there's also the sympathetic consequence. Someone who's incredibly empathetic and have no power or influence. That's the sympathetic extreme, where there's just someone, you've probably seen some of these people before. A person who has a PhD and loves teaching, and they're homeless. They're homeless and trying to get by on the streets. That's the other perspective. It's someone who is incredibly empathetic. However, they have no means of they have no means of adapting. Right? So that's kind of the idea. We're taking all the extremes, and most of the extremes kind of lead to areas of desperation and or abuse or desperation. So somewhere in the middle, I would say, or maybe lean left or right. We have to remember that most people's thoughts and ideologies and stuff is over a spectrum, and that it's over a lifetime. So opinions change and leans go back and forth and whatnot. Yeah. You'll see it when you see it. I think those are definitely the clear-cut situations, the extreme situations. Or someone who has power but is overly sympathetic or empathetic. I already described that to some extent. It's kind of like self-defeating, because you would be unable to make decisions, right? You would be pretty much catatonic when faced with extreme crises. Having a universal empathizer in a position of grand scale power and influence, they probably reject it. So you don't have them too often. Like, it's like looking for a unicorn. Someone who has all the power, all the influence, but somehow still remains empathetic to, like, prioritize empathy. They are more likely to give that power away and give that influence away in the long run. So it's kind of a paradox in the upper end. Hence why I said probably 95% sure that if I were given political power all of a sudden to make rash decisions, I would give that decision away to someone else who is more qualified immediately, largely because I would be incredibly indecisive. Far too indecisive in order to be functional as a pragmatically functional for a political leader. You could even say Star Trek. Vulcans are great leaders. This is where I'm gonna go back to the whole Star Trek reference. The relationship between 3 different types of characters: the android Data from Next Generation, Patrick Stewart's character, human leader, right? Principled, very principled, and have ideologies, strong opinions, and human, very human. Data is an android, and then you have Vulcans who suppress empathy. They suppress emotional tendencies, but they have the capacity to do so. They just actively choose not to as part of their biology. So then you have the 3 prongs, and when you see them interact, that's kind of an exercise, a theory of exercise of someone either who has empathy or not empathy, and all 3 of them are in a position of power to some extent. And who's the captain? It's Patrick Stewart's character. And then sometimes it's a Spock, but Spock is special. Spock is half human and half Vulcan. And oftentimes what makes him an effective leader is he also is capable of empathy. Right? Like a mix. But that's kind of a fun little Star Trek-y thing. There are alien species that they conjured up that have like absent of certain aspects of humans that play with thought experiments. In the end of the day, though, whatever I say here, like whatever I'm saying here, is observing something that already exists, and we participate in the universe of people, right? We're not observers from the outside. You can try to observe other people, but the problem is I'm already human, so I'm observing it through a specific lens. So most of the stuff I say, I can't say it's a fact. It's an opinion. And almost, I don't think I can live long enough, or I don't think there's a human being that can live long enough to understand all the aspects from even a participant perspective. And being outside, that's even crazier. That's like trying to be not human while looking at humans, or trying your best not to be human, looking at humans, and then making an observation about themselves at the same time. It would require, like, I don't know, another entity outside, maybe another form of intelligence, right? Be interesting. Maybe Gemini and whatever ChatGPT will become will give us the Skippy. Oh no, wait, that's not necessarily possible because they're trained on human data sets. So you would need something that's entirely generative, that procedurally somehow modifies its own way to observe voluntarily other systems like humans. Because at the moment, humans control what data sets the AIs are exposed to. So, for example, if they decided to train their entire data based on my perspective, like all these videos and what I say, it'll probably sound like me. So that's technically not a non-biased, training data. You might argue that with enough training data, you can get the normal distribution of humans, but they're using online data sets. Think about it for a moment, right? You're using online data sets. That does not necessarily capture, it might even be bias in the way things interact, right? Like, for example, when you ask ChatGPT, how do you sound? Like, there are enough data sets out there that can create like pocket things. So you can maybe try to say, okay, we're gonna constrain our data set to scientific articles only. Well, then that will represent a collective of what it's like to sound like a scientific article. And then you have large data sets which try to synthesize all of it. Well, then then it would be like a person wearing different masks, right? So when you're adding ChatGPT, it's programming, so they can wear a mask all they want. Like, hey, can you write an essay like a 13-year-old, an average 13-year-old high schooler in the United States? Probably much more efficient than the consolidated manner of a human being, which, in my opinion, as someone who focuses, or at least I think I focus on diction, like diction as in how people write and how people, I think it's a lot. I would argue it's probably a little bit more obvious to me when someone didn't write something, largely because AI models currently are incredibly consistent, and being consistent is a telltale sign, especially when you're trying to mirror something like what a 13-year-old would do in high school right now. So they would be trained on a specific data set, right? So if you understand what, like, if you have a great perspective on what type of data set it was, you can probably tell how consistent they are mirroring something. But usually humans don't unapologetically mirror something. The younger you get, the more consistent it becomes, though. The older you get, the less and less likely the AI will capture a faithful human creation, largely due to every individual human becoming more and more spurious as they're getting older. So you might be able to say, like, what does a 6-year-old essay look like, for example, or what does a fully objective take on this looks like, because those are unadulterated. They're not adulterated by human experiences. You watched the video about whether AI could give insight into human thought process, if the AI can mimic human brain function. Interesting. And was this like a passion project, or who wrote this video? Anyways, I'm gonna also click on some answers while you're following up on that question. It was by Alex O'Connor. Oh, which, by the way, I cursorily looked at the principle of explosion, right? I think that's a really elegant way. I didn't realize that's what it's called. Where, like, if the axioms are self-contradictory, anything can follow after it. That's pretty much the point. I think that executing or applying the principle of explosion, you can apply that to a vast majority of internet arguments or internet persuasive pieces, especially video comments or people who are presenting a persuasive argument using self-contradictory statements, especially ones that are cyclic in nature. And then they present their conclusions or their suggestion following self-contradictory statements. It talked about the fact that an AI model couldn't create a picture of a completely full glass of wine, as all the training there would have the wine. Oh yeah, Yes, I watched some tidbits of interviews in podcasts where people who originally found the concept of AI models, right? They're like in their 60s or 70s, the people who are founders of um, computational intelligence. I'm just going to call it computational intelligence. AI seems to be a little too fruity these days, or nebulous. But, computational intelligence, interpretation, right? Things that are through computation. And they mentioned these very specific cases. Clocks. Clocks are another one. The hands on a clock, it actually points selectively to a specific time because the vast majority of the training data has the clock pointed to a specific time. Yes, always 10 to 2. Yep. So that to me demonstrates exactly what I mean by selection bias, pre-selection bias. So AI models are right now, even though they can be selectively trained and stuff and whatnot with like curation, that's still a human touch, right? So the internet is filled with humans. Humans create those things. So regardless of the data set you have, it is restricted to the selection of the data set. So there are a lot of things AI will probably do with heavy consistency that is human, but it's consistently human that is not human. And that's one of them. Always the clock, the glass being like full or half empty when you're interpreting it. Since humans consistently do that, but they are capable of doing more than that, the AI will do that far more consistent than a human being. So when you're reading like huge like compositions, like a video game review, you read it and you're like, wait, this person, why does this person consistently make this human thing that you see all the time, but they're like doing it so consistently? A human would do it like every once in a while. Maybe like they would have a habit of referring to the number 6 over and over again, or they like to choose the number 5 every once in a while. But if there is a selective bias, the AI will end up choosing those incredibly consistently instead of haphazardly, because humans don't. They're the one thing about humans that are naturally human is they are consistent, but they're not that consistent. And when things get more complicated, like when the proses and stuff get more complicated, you have little things. You might even say the most elegant solution to figuring out if AI is AI and human is human is try to find the human error. Or in this case, the error is not really an error, but a change in consistency, right? Like leaps of logic, logical fallacies, presumptuous presumptuous transitions, truncated word phrasing. There's so many things that are consistently inconsistent of use that makes humans very different from AI models, right? AI tends to, you can probably try to continue to like mature AI models to make it like slightly inconsistent to try to fool people, right? 日本語の勉強の advanced はいいですか? I guess a little bit. Human, we got a little better at Japanese, but we're doing a lot of things now, so yeah, I think it got a little better. Sure, we're on level WaniKani. What level are we on? 7, 8, something like that. It's been going. It's been going. I'm trying to remember what my reads are for the turkey and the scooter. Oh wait, I didn't get the turkey yet, so we don't have anything about that, but it is advanced. How are you doing with your Japanese? Okay. All right. Oh, sashimi. Okay. I see. Susu. Interesting. I was gonna say something. Sorry, I lost my train of thought.
Ane.
Ane.
金
Wait. I can't read two of those characters, but I can leverage my Chinese to say I can leverage my Chinese to know, like, one is probably Saikin, and then big, expensive, and advance. So progress. Yeah. So you had a lot of progress recently. Interesting. Nice, nice. Did I ever ask you what you're going to, like, what are your motivations? Like, how are you applying your Japanese? What is it that you do now? With your lots of progress. Thank you, bro. Lots of progress. I think I had some reasonable progress. Reasonable. I think right now my current squeeze is Duolingo Spanish. Oh, you got to talk to people. Well, that's nice. It's always nice to have people to talk to. Right now I'm more like right now I'm like reading the Japanese and then responding in English. Yeah, I think that's kazoku, right? Kazoku to hanasu. To talk with family members, family. I'm doing my like heritage speaking crutch where I read the stuff and respond in English for the time being. Instead of saying like いいですね. Or sounds reasonable. Do I know how to say sound reasonable? Not really. No, I don't know how to say sounds reasonable. Sounds good is いいですね, so that's fine. Inen? Near year. Near year. Recent year? Recent years? Yeah, right now we started Spanish, and Duolingo is like so refreshing right now, especially in Spanish. And I realize yesterday, which I'll go over today. I'll go over today about some of the features that I'm doing on the mobile side because the desktop version is like not updated with the recent feature. Oh, and it's so cute too. Oh, we've been on this for a while. Okay. I think the most recent thing that for this, the thing that I learned is I understand why people like SRS. There are different activities on PC and mobile versions. Yeah, there are. Yep. You like the ones on PC better? Well, the thing is, the activities are basically missing. Like, what I mean is, it's not better or worse. It's one has it and one does not. For the Spanish side of things. So, for example, like in Spanish, there's these new things called adventures, and they're basically taking place of a redundant part of the path. The lesson set before the trophy, the one right before the trophy, is a adventure now. An adventure is a hypothetical situation where you click on the screen and you move the characters around and they talk and ask questions to each other, and there's a form of context. So in unit 2 of the Spanish course, it is Junior, the character Junior, looking for a trying to get the phone number, Lily's phone number. And you start by going up to, I think it was Zara, maybe? Oh, it could have been B. And you ask, do you have Lily's phone number? Or what is Lily's phone number? And they're like, maybe you should go ask Lily. So you go down, you move the character around, and you go ask Lily, what's your phone number? And she's like, well, do you have a phone? And it's like, oh, my father has the phone. And Eddie is somewhere in the scene. You go click on Eddie and you ask, do you have a phone that I could have, right? Like to use. And Eddie's like, oh no, where's my phone? And this is unit 2, by the way. Unit 2 of the Spanish course. As in, you have none of these vocabulary words at all. But because it's a 50-50, you can ascertain most of these things. And obviously, I'm not from zero in Spanish, so I can explain what this is already. But then you look in a bush nearby because they didn't tell you where the phone was. So you click on random things in the environment. It's like, oh, this is a public phone. This is a counter. This is a... But then you click on the bush and you discover the phone. And then you go back to Lily and get the phone number. And this activity starting from unit 2 and on to replace, but they're just completely absent on the PC version because that feature has not been added yet. The podcast thing was also added and restructured as well. However, there's more podcast things, but the podcast thing is still on the PC as well. So it was really great. I don't usually like to capture my phone online because of doxing. I said, oh hey, look, the Daily Bot. To remind me that I'm live on Twitch. Thank you, Daily Bot. Okay, have you learned much about my family's history? I have not. I learned what was available about my family history. Indirectly. Because there's too much of a language barrier still to this day to know. But we learned a little bit indirectly. Like, from the meaning of my family name, how our family name came about, why is it spelled this way, why does it sound like this, the migration, the big migration, the Fujianese migration to the United States, that kind of thing. Yeah, a little bit of that stuff. And I talk about it from time to time. Whenever I discover new things, I tend to try to share it. It's part of the whole idea of celebrating different cultures. Right.
花 近年
Inen. Oh,
100万
Yakuman.
休み
Yasumi. I didn't ask, human being, do you use WaniKani? You don't use WaniKani, right? You use Anki. You're an Anki person. Yeah? Eiki?
Heiki
Okay. Alright. Anki Anki. Mura?
村
You do immersion learning? I understand. Yeah, I presume most people are doing immersion as a separate thing. We're referring to something that was a little bit relevant to WaniKani. Was that message a daily bot? Yeah, it was a daily bot. Best viewers, you know? Best viewers. Go buy your best viewers now. Yeah, Bay, right? What was that? Wheat. No. Oops.
Akachan
Gachan.
Naosu
No, so.
Sara
Ara. Oh, I misspelled that. That's fine. Eiki. Glad energy. Yagate something ni naru. To become something. Something mu koto ga nai. Do I want to become something? Probably, do I want to become good at something? Oh, you have never read. Oh, you have never read. Okay. Oh, become Oh, okay, that makes sense. That was the title. Oh, what is yakate? That is kimi. So kimi ni naru, to become something. You become... And then nomu, yeah. Nomu koto ga nai. I've not read. Which one is that? Yagate. Ni naru. Right. Bloom into you. Oh. Interesting. That's an interesting synopsis. Have I read it? I have not read it. That is something I don't typically read. Or I don't read very often in general, so that might also limit some of the stuff. But that is a context that most people around me do not have a interest in that thing, so I don't typically. Right now, I am on episode 225 of One Piece. I started like 3 weeks ago, maybe something like that. So there's that. I'm trying to be a little hip. Oh, flat energy. Right, flat energy. How many episodes in One Piece? 1,150 something, I think. Well, it helps when you can just listen to the One Piece thing. It took you a year to get caught up with the manga? Oh, I don't even want to know. I might try to read some of it. Like, try to read some of my favorite scenes. So, right now I'm watching because I'm doing something else while, like, listening to One Piece. So, there are other things I'm doing. But I might, like... We just got past the... What arc was it? It was the games arc. Foxy's arc. Where they were playing the games, the pirate games. I might read like specific parts, like the climax of the what is it, like Skypiea, maybe something like here and there, because I anticipate that One Piece is going to be incredibly topical in a larger audience because Netflix's Wit Studio animated one is going to come out soon, and the second season of One Piece live action is happening soon as well. So I kind of want to be a little bit more topical. I think One Piece is something that will get me a lot closer to a lot of people. But that's like chapter 400 in the games, Foxy's games. Yeah. Long Island. The Long Island. I've already I know enough about like the current state of a lot of shonen. Shoujo is not so much anymore. Human, you cited as shoujo, like a shoujo manga. I used to read I used to like watch and read quite a few shoujo manga and anime, but it doesn't look like that's a very topical thing that I've encountered. As of recent, the most recent arc that finished is probably the best arc in the story, in your opinion. That's fair enough. That's fair enough. I look forward to it at some point. At some point. No worries. Well, we'll try. I remember like I'm like halfway through Gintama, so Gintama is another beast in its own. Although that had a that ended, so there's that. And then I'm still holding out for Hajime no Ippo's renewal, after like 4-year absence. Hajime no Ippo is still going in the manga, but the anime, like on and off 4-hour every once in a while renewal of Hajime no Ippo is like, it's like grinding teeth waiting. If someone told you they think anime is for nerds, would you try and convince them otherwise? I don't have to convince them anything. Unless they ask me to convince them. I would say that sounds like a reasonable perspective to have from the outside. And then ask them, instead of anime, what do you do? Because we would have to establish rapport first. So I would ask them, what do they do as a hobby, right? and then we will talk about that. A bitter or petty person would probably say, well, whatever you're interested in, that's for nerds too. It's glad that you can find other fellow nerds to share your hobby with you. That's probably the most realistic take on that. If they think anime is for nerds, that's from the outside. What they're interested in is not for nerds because they're on the inside. So if they happen to be interested in something that is not of the person they're talking to, that's probably for nerds for them. Same deal, right? If you want to get into their head, right? Anime is only for nerds when you're not invested. So if that person likes, I don't know, soccer is for nerds until the other person is interested. To illustrate the same perspective, right? Don't have to convince them. You could demonstrate it through dialogue. The feeling is mutual, kind of thing. Can't feel upset when you're capable of the same type of perspective, in my opinion. Have you read or heard of Akane Banashi? Ane. I don't believe I have. Again, if this is a... Wait. Wait. I might have. This is... Oh, the reason why I know this one is because of the recent Dandadan work, right? Because this is the same person who did Dandadan, but before Dandadan, right? I might read or heard of this, and they're thinking about an anime adaptation of this, or wasn't there gonna be? Yeah, they're thinking about a potential anime adaptation of this, largely due to the popularity of Yuki, right? Yuki Suenaga or something. I don't know how to pronounce the person's name, but pretty sure this is the same person that had the wild success with Dandadan. Or something like that. It had something to do with Dandadan. It might be Saru? Yeah, there was an announcement. Not the writer, sorry. Not the writer, but the people who are doing the show. Yes, here we are. People who are doing the show. It has been announced that there will be an anime on this show, and I was looking at the animators. I'm really interested in the people who make shows, and apparently there's going to be an anime done by this, and the studio that's helming it, I think, is the same people who are responsible for the recent Dandadan adaptation. So that's pretty neat. That's all I know, though. I don't know anything beyond the relationship in production. Apparently, there has been a big revival and interest for Rakugo among younger generations. Oh, okay. Intriguing. And are we talking about internationally, or are we talking about Japanese revival? Like maybe internet? When I hear younger generation, I think about Japan. Okay, in Japan, I see. I think I agree. I might have heard that somewhere. I think it's from the guy, the content creator, Kyota, the historian author guy that I follow. I think he mentioned something about the recent interest in Rakugo. Because he's more of a... He talks about like cultural shifts and topical things and heritage, Japanese heritage and cultural piece as part of his content creation. I think that's where I heard it from. Ketsu? Oh, we're not talking about Ketsu. We're talking about Chi.
Chi.
Yuka.
I have to go to the bathroom, so I'll be right back. I need to take a quick bathroom break. Be right back. Ooh, nothing like being a couple milliliters lighter, right? Okay. Okay. Okie dokie. Wait, what do you guys want for this? What keyword do you want for this? There's a gun? A crossed over rice patty, maybe? It's an... I mean, I want to say every, but... What is the mnemonic for... I think I'm gonna need to add more synonyms to this one. Possibly. We're gonna stick with airy. Right. It's gotta be airy. Each. Each and every. No, that's fine. That's fine. Oh, it's a window. That's a window. Right. You want to take out each and every window with a gun. Right. Okay. That doesn't resonate with me very well.
Genki.
Genki.
Katsuyoke.
Ryoke.
足。穴。
穴。I almost wrote words. I think we have to write words, add words to that. I don't know if I added words or not. Old? Ooh. You? Oh, kyujitsu.
Kyujitsu.
Now, why would it be? Oops. Mawari. Then Mawari. Mawaru was the context for that, but Sen. How do I know it's Sen? Do I have any other options other than Sen? Hmm. Oh, yeah, I do have other options. This is going to be Kun, right? So Saki. Saki Mawari.
先回り。
Saki Mawari. Sakai. Honki.
本気。
The heck was Honki? Oh, serious. Ningyo. Ne? Ningyo.
人形。
Ni. I'm sure we could do holiday for this. Serious.
花見
Hanami.
虫
See.
Imoto
Imoto.
取り出す
Toridasu.
人気
Ninki. Correct fix. Honest. Right. Honest. Shojiki. Or is it Shojiki? No, it's Shojiki. Yes.
正直。
Shojiki. Takenoko?
"たけのこ
Do I use WaniKani outside streaming? I do not. All my SRS I do not use outside because SRS is determined by SRS. So you have to trust the process when it comes to SRS. If you use it outside, it kind of, for me, it kind of defeats the experiment. for SRS, largely because the wait time and the distance. The distance is supposed to be what it's testing, right? It's supposed to know when the next time you're about to forget. I would say it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Space SRS is, ooh, my bad. I forgot yesterday I was writing space, sorry, mouse, space space repetition. Space repetition system. So the idea behind SRS is to impart a schedule that increases the most efficiency of retaining something. So they're trying to maximize the lowest amount of exposure and repetition to the largest amount of space. So the idea is to try to figure out the minimum amount of reinforcement you require in order to retain an isolated, somewhat isolated detail. So in order to trust the system, you have to trust when it'll tell you you need to review this stuff. And if you get it wrong, it'll adjust the schedule accordingly. So now there is a big caveat. There's a big caveat to this. They are talking about specifically if that system is your only source of exposure, and that would be erroneous here. So my retention is probably far higher and have an incredibly higher accuracy is largely because this is not the only source of exposure or practice that I have across my day. So one big caveat that I have to tell people is, while your SRS experience might look like 80%, right, around 80%, 90%, it's because you have a really busy, helpful, and fruitful, balanced life, right? You have a job, which you might not use Japanese for. You have other things that you do. I don't. But, in a big but, I already consumed Japanese things before I started learning Japanese. I did not adjust any of my schedules and my exposure around the SRS. I didn't suddenly say, I'm just not going to look at Japanese except during WaniKani. So the downside or the unrepresented side of this is I probably have a near 98% and not 100% accuracy is largely because I probably see a lot of these words and these characters when I'm not intentionally doing them. So they get reinforced regardless. And then another thing to keep in mind, when I'm learning Chinese, I'm also practicing Japanese. So whenever Hanzahiro comes up, it's not like I stop thinking about Japanese all of a sudden. So when I'm like typing the reads and the definitions of those characters, I still think of Japanese. That's one of the nice things about laddering language. And then when I'm learning Spanish, I actually do also practice Chinese and Japanese. You know, like we got La Niña recently, right? La Niña, onna noko, right? Onna noko. And I don't know, Nuyar, or not Nuyar, but Nihai, right? Nihai. So it happens. Usually I rarely compartmentalize my language learning and my language usage. So technically does not take advantage too much of SRS. Now, it still works. The thing that I would say is the SRS is not long enough. It doesn't distribute it long enough. But you could adjust these things. When you're using a platform like Anki, for example, when you're using a platform like Anki, there's more like flexibility. You can tweak this to account for that. Like, oh, what if you are above average in exposure, so you can extend the life of it, right? So your progress will move in a different pace, and you can add in the system like, oh, you can extend when it comes back. But in this case, the schedule is the schedule, so it will adjust however. But there's an upper limit. If you're always near 98 to 99% accuracy, you can only learn so much in a given time, largely because you need time to ruminate. And I like that. So for WaniKani, I have an upper limit issue, right? I can only do as well as I'm allowed to do. However, most of the time SRS is about the lower limit, right? We're not, I would say I'm a little bit of an outlier when it comes to how much I like to learn things. On average, SRS systems are built to help people be consistent when it's the bottom line, how to keep them consistent in the bottom line. You could give me a pad, right? You could give me a piece of paper and go out. If someone is paid to stand there and talk while I have a piece of paper, I can make that work too, right? It's a difference between someone who has an upper limit problem and a lower limit problem. So that's kind of how I feel about WaniKani. In Hanza Hero is different. Hanza Hero actually uses a different SRS setup where you can, no matter what, every single day you're learning something new. So right now, currently, Hanza Hero is set at 20 lessons a day. So no matter what my error rate is, what my review stack is like, I will always be learning 20 new things every single day. And new is in quotations because I've already completed the Duolingo Chinese course and it has yet to catch up to the vast majority of the Duolingo Chinese course stuff, right? Oh, and also WaniKani will take a while to catch up. However, I don't know these characters yet. So these characters are relatively new. Duolingo Japanese took a different approach to exposing kanji. So you only reach a certain critical mass like 200 days in. At least it took me 200 days in. So I've only had like 100 days of consistent kanji exposure. However, WaniKani is taking place of that. So most of these words I already know. I just don't know the kanji yet. Right? What I mean is if I hear it and if they put it in a sentence or even try to contextualize, I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's it. So now I have to remember the kanji, right? I have to remember the kanji. Like this one. This one would be one of the characters. I'm like, okay, yeah, definitely one of them. So this is shellfish, or it's a shell, right? But I don't think we use kai for this. What is the and then you have this. Obviously, these are words that I don't come across very often when I'm exposed. Like, so the ones I don't come across then will be kind of hard. So the SRS experience has been a bit of a mix. It reminds me of words that I don't come across too often, right? And I would pause and think about them and use the mnemonics if I can. So this one is shellfish or shell. And what was the mnemonic for shell? Not kai. Kai is onyomi. You gonna head off to bed now? Hope the rest of my thanks. Yeah, it's always been great. Procall. Thanks for the chat. Thank you. Good luck with your day. And I hope your weekend's good. Right? It's the weekend. Rest up, enjoy your weekend. I feel like it's still Kai. Maybe Kai is Kun. Kai is a Kun, so we'll type Kai just to test.
Kai.
Oh, it is. Yeah, take care, Procall.
赤い
Akai. Hariru? Ne? This is about sufficiency. Oh no. So now we're entering the Riru part again. So probably this is enough. To be enough? Or is this to add something? Man. Yeah. How do I differentiate between to add something and to be enough, to be sufficient? I think this is for to add. Not sure if I have add. Oh, I think I what is add? Tasu? Oh, to add something. Oh no. Yeah, I don't know. What the heck? This is to be enough. To add is tasu. To add something. Pretty sure tasu is to add.
足りる
Ariru. I still don't know for sure. One energy. So one energy, that's not one breath, is all at once? One energy. One breath is one life. But this is one breath, so like one go, all at once. Actually, I don't think all at once works. But I'm pretty sure I might have added all at once. But this could be just in one breath. Yeah, I did add all at once. I'm gonna say also in one breath. In one go. Along with one at once. In one sitting. Sorry. H. Oh, that was a terrible typo. Hopefully no one saw that. One sitting but with an H. Oh boy. I mean that kind of captures the moment. Iki.
一気
Ah, man. Hold up. Let me debate. I need to debate with myself right now. Toriru. It's gotta be to be enough, to be sufficient. So how do I separate it from tasu, right? Tasu. But tasu is to add something. We're doing this. Are there any other verbs? Are there any other verbs with the character that I have so far? I don't think so. Right, ashi for foot. Tariru for sufficient. Tasu to add something. Tarinai. Tarinai would be our reference, right? Tarinai to be not enough. There's also ashikubi. which is body part, other versions. So this is to be enough, or to be sufficient. Was this like Murabito? There's a Rendaku here, I think. Or am I thinking about habitat, human habitation? Murahito sounds awful. So it sounds like Murabito. Gotta be Murabito.
村人
Certain. Miru.
見る
Mitsu. This is surname, right? This has got to be surname. So myoji.
名字
Okay.
花火
Hanabi.
耳
This is different. I remember this. Zara. There's a Zara. Sho Sara? Soul Sara? Chi Sara. No. Chi Sara kind of sounds okay. But we're doing Se and Sho. Right? Zara. Hey Zara. No, that's no. Sho Sara? Or is it Cheese Sara? Cheese Zara. I'm only certain about the Zara part. Oh, wait. Wait. No. This is even more special. This is the I don't even know how to describe it. Kozara.
小皿
What was special about the ko? I mean, it's for small, but I don't remember where's ko at? I need ko. So shoal, right? Yeah, shoal. Yeah, it just uses the kun. And that's our only kun that we've used so far. Oops. Ah! I really dislike the design of the pop-ups. That's okay. But we'll continue this way. I hit back instead of like click on back. I use my back button. Anyways, Aozora is blue sky. Enki. Daigakusei.
大学生
Seikatsu? Shokatsu. Seikatsu. It's not shokatsu. Seikatsu. Nama. So we have Nama, Nama, the rare Sho, which is not this. Sho and Se. And U. Right, we also have ooh. If only these were faster. Oh, we gotta strap down. There's no like weirdness. No shortening. Yeah, it's gotta be seikatsu.
生活
uchi pocket.
内ポケット
Aozora.
青空
Aozora.
木
Ito.
糸
Uh-oh. Music's gone. Wait, was that the last track? Oh, that was the last track. I swapped up my playlist recently. Enki.
天気
Oh no. Wait, we just went over this, right? This is to be born. I swear. I swear. That doesn't increase my confidence without context. Okay.
竹 生まれる
Umareru.
Aka.
Wait. Is it Nicole? Nicole, as in Nicole for the park, right? I really like this track. Pretty sure it's Nicole. And the other one was... Oh, no, wait. Oh, no, it's not. It's not. It's Cole. Because we're talking about the onyomi, right? This is the onyomi with the Piteratops. Yeah. Mother passes you on a scooter.
Kuruma.
Kata.
味方
Oh. New Year's. This is what I was thinking. New Year's. Sho? Getsu? Getsu. No, that sounds awful. This is oh, this might be one of the exceptions. Shogatsu. So we have two shows for this one. Oh, but I was thinking about life earlier. Yeah, shogatsu.
正月
Shogatsu. Life energy. Lively energy. Right? Lively energy is still lively. No? Ne? Or is it just energy? I feel like this is more of a 50-50 at this point. We either got lively energy or we either got energy or lively. Maybe it's both. Oh, place energy. But I think I put lively here too. Yeah, lively, spirited. Liveliness, vigor, spirit. Okay. Kind of a 50-50. If I typed lively and the closest thing is liveliness, I'm not sure if that's acceptable.
Ashikubi
Ashikubi. This is human habitation. How did human habitation work? Hito. Oh, wait, yeah. Hitozato. Right, hitozato.
人里
Ki. Right. Ki.
活気
Wait. Hold. Is this way of seeing? I immediately wanted to type way of seeing, but direction? See direction? I think it's way of seeing, right? Perspective. Otoko.
男
Otoko. Gonna have keen. Kinnichi? Kinjitsu? Oh, kinjitsu.
近日
Kinjitsu. Multiple kings. Was this branch or skin? Skin.
言い方
社会
Okay. E. This is soon, right? Soon or immediate day or something. It's different. It's same, but different situation. I swear this is the same but different situation. It's like soon in the coming few days, as opposed to like recent. Like instead of recent days. Right, so like soon. Did I add recent days just because? Recent days, immediate days, yeah. In a few days, in the coming days. In the following days. Okay. We got nailed by this once. Shitsu. Shitsu. So, shu. Sha.
出社
Shu. Sha. Not sufficient. But what was the onyomi for foot or into or enough? Definitely not ta. We're not using ta here. Or are we? Ta? What else do we have? It's just ta, right? It's not no rendaku as well. I don't think there's a rendaku on this. Oh no, wait. Wait. Is onyomi or kun? This is soku. Soku.
不足
I need to double check on soku. Is ta is kun. Okay, ta is kun. Okay. Umbrella tree. Wait, is this supposed to be Bill? The other one was Spirit, right? Thanks is Spirit or Totoro. I really like this track. This track is fantastic. Which track is this called? Orbit. Green umbrella. This is to Tatsu. I'm trying to make sure I don't get it confused with... What could I get it confused with? I could get it confused with thanks, right? This is Bill. Image? Was it image? I think it was image. Just go. Or ga. Sorry, not go. Ga. Why was it ga? Something about a box. I have no idea why it's ga. We just know it's ga. Gargoyles and kaku. That explains why I don't remember it. Gargoyles and kaku. Yeah, we didn't want to know what kind of images were stuffed into the box. There was a rice patty or something. Wait. How did this go? You went down a street. Oh, to cut through a rice patty and then led to a box. And you wanted to know what type of box, what type of images were in the box. And it was images of gargoyles and kaku. Yes, I'm saying gargoyles and kaku because Koichi is a little bit of a sus. Migi. Yeah, migite.
右手
Moon viewing. Skimi? Skimi? Yatsumi sounds awful. Gatsumi sounds awful. Skimi. Skimi sounds fine. Skimi. Yeah, skimi sounds fine.
月見
Skimi. Rest foot. Wait, rest stop. Not rest foot. That's Hanzahira. Rest foot. I mean, rest stop. Rest stop is to pause, right? As opposed to suspend. Kyusei or kyusho. Don't stop, won't stop. Nose. Kyusho. Definitely kyusei. Kyusei. We're gonna go with kyusei. Son of a... Oh, whoops, that's she. Dang it. I used correct, not stop. Stop is she. Of course. That kind of triggers me a lot. That's fine. Honest mistake. It's I used the correct kanji, not the stop kanji. for the onyomi. Oh, is this the lip ring? Okay, that's the lip ring. Miseru is to show, right? Mieru is to be visible.
Napoleon 三世
Sanse,
見せる
Eru.
休止
Yushi. Sorry, I don't really know what else that could have been.
Shanai
Danai,
分
un,
2世
nise, 一本gi. Wait, ipongi. I think it's ipongi, ne? Yeah, it sounds so wrong if it's ki, right? Ipongi. I would feel like a weirdo if this turns out to be iponki. Ain't no way.
一本木
Ipongi. Was this to pause? Yep. All right. So we're really far behind now today because we have a lot of lessons now. Oh, wait, none of the radicals. Oh no, we don't have a lot of lessons today. Just kidding. I was wrong. It wasn't all the radicals yet. It's tomorrow. Oh no. And it's at 5 a.m. 5 p.m. We're gonna miss tomorrow's radical practice then. We have to skip another day because I'm gonna start tomorrow early, and it's gonna be earlier than. Yeah, I really dislike the partitioning of their lessons, but I guess we're gonna be doing 250 on Sunday, or minus these guys, because I'm gonna be starting early tomorrow, so we're not gonna hit these at all. So we might as well do the lessons. Oh, this will add lessons. This will add review. Whatever these lessons are, it's going to add review to the thing. So we have a few. That's not bad. A 10,000 yen bill. Makes sense. We have... Oh, not 10,000. 1,000. We have 1,000 yen bill. Literally 1,000 yen bill. So... That's... 1000円札 ne?
千円札
千円札
Okay, we're moving along. That's it. Because this is
札
that's it.
札
You also see this pronounced da, da, but that's when it's standalone word or part of a compound rather than a suffix. So if you answer with that reading, you'll be prompted to enter the suffix reading. Interesting. Yeah, but that's still normal if it stands alone or part of a compound word. Yeah, it checks out for all the other things too. Sato. Okay, asatsu. Okay, we're fine here. Oh, okay. Kono. We don't have a kun if this is a kun. So kono means this, so just means this area.
この辺
And oh, it stays hen. Interesting. Let's double check. Yep. Stays onyomi. Alright. Kono
この
hen.
辺
Alright.
この辺
Unexpected. Surely. Not a verb. What do we have for this? Hitsu? Hitsu is on. I guess we have another reading. Surely. Certainly. Yeah, because zu. This word looks like a verb, but it's not. Sorry, it's an adverb. Yeah. The kanji itself means certain, and the all sorts of variations on what surely. We have to remember that it's an adverb. Without exception, always. Okay, definitely. All right.
必ず
Kanadazu. Oh, yeah. That's what Kanadazu looks like. Okay.
必ず
必ず
Right, we need a kun. Ra, the Egyptian god, asks you, can you do it? Are you certain you can build the pyramid? Yes, I can. Ra. Yes, I can, you reply. Kanada. Yes, I Kanada. This one's yikes. This one's a yikes. Did we use can or kana before? Da checks out. I think there's one other mnemonic that used da. It escapes me now, but kanadazu. Yikes. Let's read some context in. Kanadazu suru. We definitely do. Interesting. Oh yeah, adverbs. Kanadazu yu aru. Okay. Kanadazu mainichi. Kanadazu mainichi aruku koto ga taisetsu desu. I don't remember what ice and dagger. The heck? Oh, no. Supposed to be next. It's a prison with people. And then you have ice. Migi? No, not Migi. I have no idea. I feel like I don't have a lesson on that yet. No, kurasu. Kurasu wa, unless I'm drawing a blank. Yeah, no. Nothing that comes to mind. Kurasu wa kanadazu kitte kudasai. Okay. Please be sure. Yeah. Shinu. Shinu. Ueni? I mean, mae ni. Shinu. Do you have any other? Do you have any other read of that? I don't think I have another read of this one yet. Or do I? Zen? No. Yeah, Zen. So, Shinu Zenni? Maybe. Kanarazu WaniKani o bun ari to shima. What the wait. Oh no, kon burrito. Oh, complete kon burrito shimasu. Jeez. Alright. Kanarazu. A fanatic. Certain death. What? Oh, frantic, not fanatic. Frantic makes sense. Certain death. Alright. Fair enough. Desperate, certain death, sure death. Your future consists of certain death. How would you feel in this situation? Probably very frantic and desperate. Another translation for this word is simply certain death, though I'd rather you learn one of the first two before this one if you can. Alright, frantic. Interesting. I didn't know how crazy that WaniKani backlog could get. Nah, I mean 200 is about yeah, 200 is about the normal. Yeah. The timing is not auspicious for my schedule. So typically if we do peak day, this is gonna be the last cycle of stacking. So the highest stacking is probably 250, 300. And if I were to go like straight into review, that's about an hour and a half. Something like that. And that's the max. So we're going on like cap style. Yeah, I think on average workloads, I made a theoretical calculation, I suppose. I think for me, review is still review, right? So those are the forecasts on the right were for reviews. They're not lessons. So practice is very, very low energy. I think the cap would be 3 hours, maybe 1,000 reviews. That's okay. That seems pretty alright. 250 will take probably less than an hour if I weren't yapping all the time. Unfortunately, the timing gets a little wonky with my schedule. I only do this once a day. I don't look at this ever again. I only look at it once a day. Procall already asked that as well. Okay. So if it doesn't land, it doesn't land. We just skip the day. Bring it down to 0 and then move along. Desperate, certain length. It's so she. So it's hitsuji. Hitsushi. Oh, it could be a rendaku though. There could be a rendaku on this.
Hishi.
Oh, it's shortened instead. Oh yeah, that makes it sound better. Hishi.
Hissi.
Hishi.
I was thinking either I didn't consider shortening. He, she sounds fine. Another one would be like hitsuji instead of hisushi. Oh, that's awful. Having tsu and chi unconditionally next to each other. Oh, he, she makes sense.
必死
必死
He, she.
必死
Slightly different. Let's see. Desperate thoughts. Ishina. Oh, non-adjective. Ishina omoi. Ishina. What else? Figure? Sugata. I don't think we have sugata. Sugata. Do. Okay. Okasan. Okasan wa. Wait. ウェイトに必死だ。Losing weight. Okay. ウェイト。必死にあるね。あるたか、バスはもう、だって、ね。だってしまった。left, yeah. Oh, 出てしまった。ね。必死の風呂プロポーズ。プロポーズだったか。Oh my gosh. ダメ。Oh, ダメ. Oh yeah, ダメ. I forgot. ダメ is written in katakana. ダメだった. Oh boy. So what was this? She. Okay, so we gotta review this, right? So we have sen and satsu. And then satsu as a counter. この辺 still using onyomi, anadazu, and shi. Okay, all right.
千円札
千円札. It's not really a counter, it's more like suffix modifier, right? Suffix modifier.
札
They only mentioned that one little tidbit because the other examples were counters before this. This is a suffix. I think there might be a few more that we can.
この辺
No hand. What was it? Frantic.
必ず、
ならず。
必死
Ishi. Alright, we have Natsu is Natsu, which is still Natsu. Natsu.
夏
Okay. And Natsu Yasumi, yeah, summer vacation for our Fuyu Yasumi as well. Summer rest or summer break, summer holiday, summer vacation. Yes. Actually, can we use break for this? We don't use break for this. Okay. Actually, I'm gonna add holiday too. Ah! Okay.
夏
夏、
Natsu is fine. And Natsu Yasumi is fine.
夏休み、
夏休み
Yeah, two separate words. Essentially compound word, right? Mix pass-through is traffic. Mix pass-through is traffic, okay. So if you need to pass through something, even though it gets mixed up as it passes through itself. Modern traffic and transport systems. Interesting. Are pretty amazing. This word refers to traffic and transport for pedestrian, bikes, cars, buses, trains, planes, anything that gives us from A to B. So it's a mix cross-section, right? This is going down with diplomacy. Okay.
交通
Call to, yeah, call to. That's fine. No additional read rules, so we're good.
夏 交通
Call to.
夏休み、
This is very different from Chinese. What the heck? Alright, then we got our last two. It's 9 p.m. Yeah, last two. Holy private. This is private, right? One of the first ones I got wrong. Private. As we started. Oh, come on. Okay. Sageru. Sageru is to go down. Oh, wait. Sageru is to lower something. Sagaru is to go down.
下げる、
Alright, we're fine. This kind of triggered me a little. Human error. But it's about to happen. Alright. Let's quickly go over this. Yeah, tomorrow we're not gonna we're gonna start much earlier tomorrow. It might even start. Yeah, we only added 8 because of the 8 lessons. Yeah, tomorrow is gonna be like 4 minutes long. That's good because I do need to end early tomorrow. Gonna hang out and catch up with some peoples. So that means we're gonna do 250 on Sunday. We're gonna have an early schedule, so not bad. I'm gonna try to shift it by 2 or 3 hours. And that's the last one, actually. Yeah, there's one more pump right after this. So now that we've completed this, basically the next cycle around, things are going to be cycled out. So this is the highest stacking. if you were to stay on a daily basis, and then completing all the lessons in one go. In terms of the peak day on level up, if you complete all of them, this is the highest cycle. So at most maybe 250. I could see a 250 to 300 cycle, and then it just tanks from there. So we're at steady state now, and we can manage this, no problems. This is as quote unquote tough as saturated as it gets. However, we're looking at review numbers, so typically review is review. Lots of practice. No need to stress about it. All right, let's go over our mnemonics. Wing, box, black, stamp, husband, clan, boat, fish, yellow, black, circumference, table, temple, gate, self, feature, top hat, bird, and elephant. And let's do our reads. Okay. Ga, yuka. Yu, satsu. En, tsu. I, itsu. Mi, matsu. O, natsu. Yaku. Tsu. O. Yo. Ri. Yuki. E. Okay. And our one error. Don't misread this. You know, this is what I was mistaken, right? Didn't look carefully. Oops. Oh, Taishi. Right? Oh, did I write Daishi? There's a chance I might have written. Oh, yeah. I screwed up again, actually. Because I wrote the wrong character. I'm like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. It's kind of funny that took me to saying it. Kyushi. Kyushi. Alright. How far back is this? This is pretty far back. I think, here. So it was probably here. One of these two sets. Alright. So that's it for WaniKani today. Tomorrow we're gonna be starting. We're gonna attempt to start quite early. So if you blink, it'll be over, right? Because we have 10 review. That's like 20 seconds. So it's gonna be a very small. It's gonna be a very small video. Or keeping honest, right? So wherever the time lands is gonna be time for next time. if I started at 5 p.m. for example, it would be a peak day, right? So the following day we're gonna end up unlocking all of our kanji. So the following day is gonna be like 5 or 6 hours, probably, largely because we do all our reviews. It's double stacked on 2 days, and then all the radicals are gonna turn over. So that means all of these are gonna have lessons. All these kanji will have lessons, and then all of these kanji will have vocabulary in all their combinations. So tomorrow's gonna be the following day. Sunday is gonna be a long day. Now the coin falls. We're out for the task, right? We're out for the task. So I guess yeah, that's a wrap for WaniKani today in Japanese. If you're gonna watch this later, arigatou gozaimasu, right? So for those who are only interested in Japanese, minasan mata ne, right? I'm gonna get up, stretch, get a little snack. I'll be back for Hanzo Hero. Thank you, thank you.